This one's rather different. So this one might seem like a, change of pace. This is, again, me giving you my opinion based upon a comment or a private message and so on and so forth, which is actually a very effective way for me to communicate where I'm coming from. Because, because otherwise I'm just like creating subjects out of thin air. But if someone's asking me something, then it comes over, then it's more positive for me. I've got lots of ideas and lots of opinions, but I'm not always aware as to what they are unless someone puts it into context through asking me a question. This one says, "Hello, Nick." I like doing that. It's fun. I like just exercising the fingers a bit. Anyway, "Hello, Nick. I'd really like to know one specific thing, and I'm sorry if this question is a little bit rude. Have you ever been rejected personally about your practice? Have you ever considered to be a not so reliable person because of what you are doing?" Now, that's rather a weird question, isn't it? What do you mean by personally? Are you referring to, intimately? Are you? To which the answer would be no, not at all. There are individuals who do reject me. There are individuals who have a instinctive emotional hatred against anything that I'm associated with, because they've got their own opinions. If you look back on my comparatively recent YouTube history, you'll see that there is one particular attempting to be prominent atheist who's objected to some of the things that I've said, despite the fact that I actually have a very good argument, which is, of course, rather shocking. But that's because he's someone who has a problem with a form of subject which goes contrary to what he would like to be true. And there are people who are like that. I met this individual socially, and this was quite late in the afternoon. It's in the pub with my friends, and I was having a chat with this lady, and she says, "Well, how did you get into tarot?" And I thought, well, what a bloody stupid question. How does anyone get into anything? How does a person get into skydiving? Well, they've got an interest, or maybe they've seen a program about how gravity operates and they wanted to experience it for themselves, or maybe they have an interest in flight, or one thought leads to another, or they met one person and met another person, and the conversations and the ideas started to develop. That's the way that anybody gets interested in anything. It's a whole intellectual, creative process, a combination between meeting people, coming across ideas, having an interest in one particular subject, and starting to branch off in that particular way. That's how you show it, get interested in anything. Anything on the face of the planet. How did I find out about electronic cigarettes? Well, I had a desire to give up smoking. I did a few internet searches. That told me about this one thing, then another thing, then another thing, and then eventually I decided what style of electronic cigarette I wanted to use. And I did a bit of experiments, and I practiced with one of them, and that was okay. Then I moved on to something else because I had to, or because that's the way, my situation went. Essentially, to go into each and every single detail about how a person gets into tarot is a bloody long subject, or into skydiving, or into electronic cigarettes, or into electronics, or natural science, or philosophy, art, politics. Bloody hell. So I didn't know what to say. And as I was tired, it was late in the day, I wasn't drunk, I don't drink alcohol because, I've been off that over 9 years now. And I just said, well, I saw dead people, which is obviously quite the wrong response. But on the other hand, I wasn't concentrating, and hey, presto. Obviously it's true, isn't it? I had these strange experiences which seemed to follow the culturally defined definition or of what the experience of seeing a ghost is, and that made me ask more questions. And then I went down the creative and intellectual process of finding out this, that, and the other, and that led me down one route, then another route, and I met some people, and I followed them for a while, and I met another group of people, and followed them for a while, and then eventually, I formulated my own ideas, and of course, 4.5 years ago, whenever it was, I got on YouTube, and so on, and so, nearly 5 years now. 5 years this spring. Okay, so that's changed my perspective, and I've grown from there. And I mean, it's a bloody long story, but because I'd used this phrase, "I saw dead people," this one individual who was plainly someone who believed, and that's the operative word, you see, believed that he was right and rational and intelligent, completely made my life rather difficult. And there was this sort of like silent war of complex body language and rejection and isolation and all that kind of stuff going on. Which is, of course, fascinating, because no one had actually behaved towards me that way personally on a face-to-face basis before. Of course, on YouTube, when basically, the number of nutters around is of a slightly higher percentage. But there, face-to-face, it's rather curious. This individual happens to be a teacher, and the funny thing about teachers is they think they're intelligent, when in fact they're not. Alright, I mean, I've come across and met and engaged with so many people who were teachers who seriously lacked the ability to think. I mean, they had certain very thin lines of thinking and facts and ideas and appropriate understandings of behavior, but they could not actually apply that or apply their thinking to anything else. They're actually very close-minded people who think in straight lines. Thinking in straight lines are okay so long as you carry on reaching junctures, developing conclusions, trying to evaluate whether your conclusions are right or wrong, in what ways they're good, what ways they're bad, then find another direction, and then evaluate your progress as you're going along the intellectual process. And in my opinion, it's worthwhile applying that to everything you see in life, because you can't develop a proper or full interpretation as to what a person is about unless you've explored them and their character in greater detail. But a person who's got prejudices based upon beliefs, because that's basically what it is, it was a form of extreme prejudice, can't do that. All right, they've got a wall of thinking that they can't go beyond. All right, and that's the kind of person who rejects me on a face-to-face basis. Now, I do understand that the person is political, as I think it was a feminist writer who said that. And some people are politically against some points of view. And that's fine, that's their politics. I'm not going to take away from their freedom of speech, but I'm going to carry on saying my piece, because I personally think that I've got, a important thing to say to a certain specific combination of ideological and intellectual and psychological demographics. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, that's the way it happens. So people who are dramatically different to me, or people who consider that I am politically the adversary because, hey, I've got a pack of tarot cards. There you go. Obviously, public enemy number one, definitely. Or I've got, a rather groovy commercial. Here it is. I'll just show it to you yet again. Variety of talking board, which still serves quite nicely as something which I can use as a mouse mat. I now put a bit of paper on top of it when I'm using it as a mouse mat to try and protect the shine on the surface for when I want to use it for a ideomotor experiment. Okay. You see, people are thick, just generally speaking. I mean, I've done some videos that were based upon the idea of the idiomotor effect, and I've done demonstrations of and experiments with the Ouija board, okay, or the talking board, I should say, to use its proper term. And I would actually say it's the idiomotor effect, and hey presto, someone would comment on the video, yeah, it's the idiomotor effect, don't you know that, dum-dum? To which my point is, why the fuck didn't you listen to the whole bloody video, you stupid, ignorant piece of shit? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But on the other hand, there's no counting for taste, is there? Everybody is different, and as a result of that, we have to accept the fact that there will be people who will accept me, there will be people who will reject me, and there will be people who I personally will do accepting and rejecting of for various and numerous different reasons, which can either be a good or bad thing depending upon where you're coming from. But either way, I will carry on coming from where I'm coming from, and I suppose everybody else will carry on coming from where they're coming from. And hopefully, one day we can all stop being stupid assholes and start being people who are actually capable of thinking outside of the box and maybe applying things such as tolerance, understanding, forgiveness, and just, getting a bit wiser with the way in which we see other people. And some people don't have the capacity to grow because some people don't look for the growth. Some people don't try and grow. Because a person who looks at themselves in the mirror and says, I'm right, is a very dangerous person. A person who's got some self-doubt is a more whole person. In society, we're sometimes encouraged to believe in ourselves. I regard this as wrong because that stops you from thinking. Okay, it's like a motivational tool that some teachers might want to use to try and stop children from being lazy. But on the other hand, it doesn't allow the pupil or the person doing the learning to actually think about what they're good at or what they're bad at and then to try and improve upon what they're bad at. Okay, it's a brainwashing or mind-washing tool which some people carry on well into adulthood. And it's thoroughly irrational, thoroughly illogical, and thoroughly unintelligent to do so. So yeah, just a few rambles from the wonderful breadth of vision of the amazing, fantastic, divine Nick Dutch. Yeah, and I can get a bit, flamboyant when I'm talking to myself, I know, but I am talking to myself, aren't I? The only person who can hear me is this camera. I'm just sitting here basically talking to myself. I've got a light shining in my face, a little plastic thing with a little lens looking at me, and basically I'm just talking to myself and recording it. It's peculiar, mad, totally mad, I'm telling you.